Right now, there is a woman who has decided how she feels about you, and she decided it through her skin before she ever decided it in her mind. Somewhere in your life, that decision is already being made, quietly, without announcement, in the space between two touches you barely noticed giving. You keep missing this because you were taught to listen for words, to wait for what she says, when the truth is, she has been speaking a different language the entire time. Her body has its own vocabulary, and most men never learn to read it, not because they are careless, but because no one ever taught them where to look. Tonight, that changes. There are 7 touches that build a mature woman's trust in a very specific order, each one doing something the last one could not, and one of them, the 7th, is the one she says makes her fall the hardest. It is also the one almost no man ever thinks to give. By the end of this video, you will know all 7, you will understand the order they build on each other, and you will finally recognize the one touch she has been quietly waiting for without ever once asking you for it. You've probably done this one without knowing what it actually does to her. The hand at the lower back as you guide her through a doorway. The light touch at her elbow as you cross a crowded room. It feels almost automatic, something you picked up without thinking, and that is exactly why it works. When a woman feels a steady, confident hand guiding her through a physically uncertain moment, her nervous system registers something researchers call safety signaling, a subtle cue that tells the body it does not need to stay alert because someone else is watching the space around her. That is not control. Control tightens. This loosens. The difference is in the pressure and the timing. A guiding touch is brief. It releases the moment passes, and it never lingers past its purpose. Of course, context always matters here. A stranger doing this feels invasive, while someone she already trusts doing this feels grounding. That is the difference between a gesture and a violation. You might be thinking, isn't this just manners, something men are taught to do without any real meaning behind it? Sometimes, yes, but watch what happens when it disappears. Watch how a woman notices almost instantly when a man stops offering it, when he walks ahead of her through a door or lets her navigate a crowd alone. That absence tells her something too. Most men either overdo this, turning it into a performance, steering her like she needs managing, or they abandon it completely once the early stage of dating ends, treating it as something reserved only for first impressions. That is the moment most men walk away from without realizing it. But safety is only the entry point, because the next touch isn't about protecting her, it's about proving she can lean on you. There's a moment in almost every serious conversation where a woman is quietly testing whether you're really there. Not physically there, sitting across from her, she already knows that part. She is testing something else, something harder to fake. Whether your attention is actually with her, or whether some part of you has already drifted toward your phone, your thoughts, the next thing on your list. This is where the anchoring touch enters, a light hand resting over hers, or fingers briefly at her forearm, offered in the middle of something that matters to her. Psychologists sometimes describe this as co-regulation, which simply means one nervous system helping to steady another through calm, consistent contact. Her breathing slows, her voice softens. You may not even notice it happening, but she does. Here is the specific detail that separates a real anchoring touch from an empty one: timing. It does not arrive at the funny part of the story or the exciting part. It arrives during the pause right after she says something vulnerable. The sentence she almost didn't say out loud. That is the window. Miss it, and the touch means nothing. Land it, and she feels seen in a way words rarely accomplish. Now, you might be thinking, couldn't this just be casual affection? Something people do without any deeper signal attached? Sometimes it is. But when it appears consistently, at that exact pause, after that exact kind of sentence, the pattern stops being casual. One instance means little, a pattern means everything. The common mistake here is over-touching, men who reach for her hand during every sentence, turning a meaningful gesture into background noise she eventually stops registering at all. Once she trusts that you stay present, the next touch tests something riskier. whether you stay present when she's not okay. Most men either say too much or touch too soon when a woman is upset, and both mistakes cost them. There is a particular kind of touch reserved for the moments she is venting, spiraling, or quietly falling apart, and it is not the touch you think. It is not a tight hug pulled in immediately. It is a hand resting lightly on her back or shoulder, offered only after she has finished the first wave of what she needed to say. This is the reassuring touch, and its entire power comes from restraint. When a woman is emotionally flooded, her brain is not looking for solutions or comfort yet, it is looking for space to finish the thought. A touch offered too early can feel like an interruption, even when it is meant kindly. Behavioral researchers call this attunement, the ability to match your response to what someone actually needs in that specific moment, rather than what would make you feel useful. A man who waits, who lets her words land fully before he offers contact, is demonstrating something rare, that his comfort can wait for hers. Of course, this does not mean silence and stillness through the entire conversation. It means reading the shift, the exhale, the pause, the slight drop in her shoulders that signals she has said what she needed to say. That is the window for the reassuring touch to land. The common mistake is rushing in with a hug at the very first sign of distress, which can unintentionally signal that you want her to stop talking rather than continue. That single pause often decides how safe she feels with you afterward. Reassurance builds safety, but safety alone can start to feel heavy, which is exactly why the next touch exists. Every woman who has ever said a man felt easy to be around is describing this touch without realizing it. The playful touch, a light nudge to the shoulder, a brief brush of contact during a shared laugh, fingers grazing her arm as you tease her about something she said. It looks like nothing. It might even look accidental, but underneath it is doing real psychological work. Attraction research consistently points to something simple: tension and release. A relationship built entirely on depth and vulnerability, without any lightness, starts to feel exhausting, even when both people care deeply. The playful touch interrupts that heaviness. It says, without any words at all, that this connection has room to breathe, that not every moment has to carry weight. Think back to a conversation that once seemed ordinary, one where you laughed about something small and touched her arm without thinking. She likely remembers that moment more clearly than you do. Here is the specific detail most men miss. Playful touch only works when it follows genuine amusement, not performed humor. A forced laugh followed by a touch feels hollow. A real one, shared and mutual, creates an opening that feels natural rather than calculated. Now, you might wonder, couldn't this just be friendly banter, nothing more? Sometimes, sure, but when playful touch consistently follows moments of real connection, rather than appearing randomly, it starts to build something researchers call positive association. Her mind quietly linking your presence with ease and lightness. The common mistake is men who try to force playfulness through jokes that don't land, then touch anyway, which reads as try hard rather than natural. Playfulness keeps her comfortable in the present, but the next touch is the one that makes her feel your absence. There's a difference between a hug that says hello and a touch that says, I thought about you. Most men treat greetings as a formality. A quick hug, a brief kiss, something checked off before moving to the actual conversation. But there is a specific version of this touch that mature women describe as unforgettable, and it happens after time apart, whether that is a long day, a business trip, or simply hours spent away from each other. The waiting touch is longer than expected. It holds a half-second past where a normal greeting would end. Sometimes it includes a hand cupping the side of her face, or an embrace that pulls slightly tighter before releasing. What makes it powerful is not affection alone, it is the implied message underneath it, that some part of you was thinking about her while you were apart, and this touch is the proof. Remember what I told you at the start? That there was one touch most men not only miss, but actively misread. We are getting close to it now, though this is not quite it. Of course, context always matters. A rushed goodbye at a doorway, both of you late for something, will never carry this same weight, and that is fine. This touch is reserved for genuine reunions, not routine partings, and trying to force it into every single hello actually weakens its meaning over time. The common mistake is treating every greeting the same way, regardless of how much time has passed, which flattens a touch that is supposed to feel earned. If being missed matters this much, what happens in front of other people matters even more, because that's where she watches how you protect her. A mature woman is always quietly noticing how you touch her when other people are watching. Not because she is insecure, but because public settings reveal something private ones cannot, whether your affection is consistent or whether it only appears when convenient. This is where the protective touch lives. A hand resting naturally at her waist while you introduce her to someone new, fingers briefly at the small of her back as you guide her into a group conversation. It is calm, it is unhurried, and it says something specific without a single word. This woman is with me, and I am not uncertain about that. Social psychologists have long studied what they call public affiliation signals, the small, visible behaviors that communicate relationship status to a surrounding group before anyone says anything out loud. For a mature woman, especially one who has been overlooked or under-prioritized in the past, this signal carries particular weight. It tells her she does not have to wonder where she stands once other people enter the room. Now you might be thinking, couldn't this tip into possessiveness if taken too far? It absolutely can, and that line matters. Protective touch is calm and open. It never restricts her movement, never tightens when she talks to someone else, never turns into a grip. The moment it does, it stops being protection and becomes control, and she will feel that shift immediately, even if she cannot name it. The common mistake is either ignoring her completely in group settings, leaving her to navigate alone, or overcorrecting into a possessive hold that reads as insecurity rather than confidence. Every touch so far has been visible to others, but the one that matters most happens when no one else is around, and almost no man gives it on purpose. This last one isn't romantic, it isn't planned, and it's the one that makes her decide, you're not going anywhere. It happens at the end of an ordinary day, no audience, no occasion, nothing to prove. A hand resting quietly on her back while she cooks or washes dishes or scrolls through her phone beside you on the couch. No pull toward anything more, no expectation attached, just contact, offered simply because you are near her and it felt natural. This is the quiet touch, and it is the one mature women consistently describe as the moment they knew. Not the grand gesture, not the reunion or the public introduction or the anchoring hand during a hard conversation. This one, because it asks for nothing in return. Attachment researchers describe this as a felt safety marker, physical affection given with zero performance value, meaning there is no one to impress and nothing being requested. When touch appears even in these unremarkable moments, the nervous system stops treating the relationship as something requiring vigilance. It starts treating it as home. Of course, this cannot be manufactured on command. Forcing a quiet touch for effect defeats its entire purpose, because she can sense calculation even in stillness. The common mistake, and the reason so many men skip this one entirely, is believing touch only matters when something is happening. But this touch works precisely because nothing is happening at all. That is the touch mature women say they fall hardest for. Once you understand what this touch proves, you'll start to notice how rarely most men ever give it, and how much that one absence quietly costs them. 7 touches, each one building on the last: safety, presence, comfort, ease, longing, protection, and finally, quiet. None of them require charm, confidence, or the right words. What they require is attention and the willingness to offer contact without needing something back from it. That is the part most men never learn, because they were taught that touch should lead somewhere, when the truth is, the touch that means the most often leads nowhere at all. You do not need to memorize all 7 and perform them like a checklist. That would defeat the entire point. What you need is awareness, noticing the moments where touch could say something words cannot, and letting it happen naturally instead of holding back. I want to know which of these landed for you. Which of these 7 touches do you already give without thinking about it, and which one have you never tried? Tell me in the comments because I read every single one, and I read them for a reason. The details you share shape exactly what we cover next. If this helped you see something you were missing, subscribing means you won't miss what comes next. In the next video, you'll learn the exact words that undo the emotional walls a mature woman built after being hurt before, and why touch alone can't reach her until those words are said first.